Zombies are actually real. Yes, you heard that right. Everyone knows that zombies existed in the past, but what if I told you they still exist today? In 2021, Jack Williams decided to embark on a mission to uncover the truth about the existence of zombies, as he had heard numerous theories about these mysterious creatures from the past. He gathered a group of survivors and prepared enough resources to last for 6 months before venturing into the devastated areas. From there, they explored for weeks without seeing anything. However, after exactly 71 days of wandering, they spotted what appeared to be a horde of zombies in the distance. As they approached, they realized just how numerous they were. They started filming, and as they got closer, they could clearly see that they were real zombies. They then posted the video online, but it was quickly taken down. The group eventually vanished without a trace, but luckily, some individuals were able to save the video, send it to a friend for part 2.
Dude, this guy was fucking insane. So he's like, hey, Brian, why don't you, it's your turn. Why don't you take a shower? No, I'm okay. I'm all right. You're filthy. Why don't you get in there, take a shower? He's like, no, I'm all right. I'm okay. I go, oh, fuck. What do we do? He's old. We can take him if he tries anything. We're tired. We were fucking so tired. He looks like he was like falling asleep on his couch. And he goes, he's gonna go to sleep soon. Let's just fucking stay the night. It's fucking air conditioned in here. And then let's leave first thing in the morning before we wake up. Like, okay, fuck it. Let's just do it. All right, boys, I'm gonna turn in. Like, yes. We take the couch and I go, let's sleep in a formation and let's take turns. We should have just left. You go, you stay up for an hour and then wake me up. I'll stay up for an hour. And then we'll leave crack of dawn. You know, I had a pocket knife, so I slept like this. I took the knife and I put the thing like this and I slept like that. And I stayed up for the first hour and I see that him walking around his room. The lights are on. And I'm like, this guy's not going to sleep. Midnight, 1 in the morning. I'm like, what the fuck? Why won't this guy go to sleep?
Putting his masks on.
And I'm like, oh shit.
Mermaids are actually real. Yes, you heard that right. In 2021, a man named Elian Burks decided to uncover the truth about the existence of mermaids. With 2 of his friends, Case and Zach, he set out for the deep sea. From there, they explored the Pacific Ocean for weeks without finding anything. Until one day, they started hearing a charming song coming from the depths of the ocean. After a few minutes, a creature with the lower body of a fish and the upper body of a woman, also known as a mermaid, emerged from the water. However, as they were all looking at the creature, Case, charmed by the mermaid's melodious singing, jumped into the water. In a hurry, Elian grabbed the earplugs he had prepared, gave one to Zach, and inserted it into his ears. He then started filming, when all of a sudden the mermaid dove deep into the water with Case's body. From that day, all 3 friends remained untraceable. Subscribe and share with a friend for part 2, which will show the video.
The worst video on the dark web. This video was published anonymously. In the description it says that they are doppelgangers, those famous evil twins. It seems that we all have one on Earth.
Is this the deadliest piranha attack in history? In 1981, an overloaded Amazon riverboat, Sobral Santos II, carrying 500 passengers, crashed into the dock of Obidos Harbor. As it began taking water, people started screaming in panic. When the passengers moved to the side without water, the boat capsized. According to reports, only 178 people managed to swim to safety, and more than 300 people were reported missing, presumably dead. Locals say that the victims were eaten by voracious piranhas, which explained the lack of bodies found. But splashing, added with smell of blood of the injured, might have caused a feeding frenzy, which led to decimation of hundreds of
Here's a list of upcoming horror movies releasing in chronological order till the end of the year. Up first, we have A Haunting in Venice, releasing September 15th. The movie starts out with a skeptical police officer accompanying a woman to a seance, where it's said that this woman is able to talk to the dead, and allow this woman to talk to her dead daughter. And let's just say things go massively wrong. Once that woman is thrown against a wall and unalived, the police officer locks down the whole entire house, not letting anyone leave until he finds exactly who did it, because of course he doesn't believe in demonic possession or the devil. And throughout the whole entire movie, it just messes with him, and it actually looks extremely scary. Up next is No One Will Save You, a movie where this girl is a massive homebody, meaning that she never leaves her house. She then encounters an alien in her basement and is forced to stay inside and hide. The movie releases September 22nd, and it actually sounds pretty good. Up next is It Lives Inside, which also releases September 22nd. The movie follows a girl who has a falling out with her best friend, where a demon decides to latch onto her scenes as though she's so upset, and she becomes wildly possessed. As I said, this movie releases on the same day, September 22nd, and I'm extremely excited for it. And finally, we have Pet Sematary: Bloodlines, releasing October 6th. And the way this movie is described, it is going to be absolutely insane. More or less, the main character decides to leave his hometown, leaving everything behind. He then finds out everything that his family has done in the past, and let's just say stuff gets crazy. Like and follow for more.
And he likes to go and explore cemeteries and talk to any spirits using the Ghost Tube app. However, one day he seemed to make a mistake while communicating with a spirit at a cemetery, which may have caused something to follow him home. Watch closely.
This one's WMR Overstreet, 1879 to 1919.
Run now.
Run now? I appreciate the heads up and the warning. As of right now, I'm not afraid, however. It does get a little creepy when, as I said, I'm not sure the authenticity of this app, but when it says things like that, it does get a little eerie. Here's another old one, 1869 to 1937. Why should I run? It's a nice little area back through there. I'm not going to go back that way just because I don't want to trespass. I'm just going to go over to the edge right here. There is quite an old headstone here. If I can even read it. He was in the Army. Basement. George R. Kinney, 1924. I don't know if that's when he passed on or if that's when he was born. This one, I'm not even sure that's a headstone, to be honest with you. Why did you say basement? What about the basement? Did somebody hurt you? Mary. I can swear I heard something over in the woods. Probably just a deer. It said Mary. I kind of want to look around at some of these headstones and see if there's a Mary here. I'm not seeing a Mary anywhere. We'll check the name of this one again. No, that was the WMR Overstreet. Thank you for chatting with me. I'm going to move on now to a different spot. You're more than welcome to follow me if you'd like.
While exploring the cemetery, something mentions the basement, but doesn't say anything else. Shortly afterwards, he then unknowingly says you're welcome to follow me if you like, which I'm sure he just meant to follow him to the next part of the cemetery. But it seems he invited something that ended up following him all the way home to his basement, as the word was mentioned. And now he has been hearing odd sounds coming from the basement. On one day, he hears what sounds like footsteps coming from down in the basement and decides to check it out. What he captures is utterly terrifying. Watch.
Okay, TikTok. So, my power is out at the moment in the basement. And I swear, I keep hearing someone walk. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's kind of creepy. Laundry room still has power, so that's good. But the rest of the basement's power is completely out, which is very strange. I'm not sure what that noise was, but I don't know. I'm home alone right now, so we'll see, I guess. Look out back. No, nothing back there. I don't know. There's been a lot of strange things happening. Figures, shadows. So, I don't know. Maybe some tips, advice would help out. can't really see anything, but there's no one in here. Nice. Does this light come on? Oh, it does. Nothing in there. I don't know.
Someone or something can be seen just standing there in the bathtub down in the basement. But when he searches the whole place and passes back to the bathroom moments later, there's nothing there. The next day he hears noises coming from the basement once again and heads down to check it out.
Okay, TikTok. I'm going to show you guys this basement. And all the creepy stuff that's been happening here. This is the bathroom I passed earlier, where there was some shadow figure standing, supposedly. I've watched it. It's creepy. That's creepy. But anyway, there is nothing in here to make a shadow stand at all in this bathtub. That's to the pipes outside. Bathtub, shower, have a window right here, and what the fuck was that? Okay, so here's the thing. This house has been creeping me out for the longest time already, and we haven't lived here but maybe, I don't know, 2 years. It's just, I swear to God, I don't like it. I mean, if there's anyone that's gonna be hiding behind this fucking thing over here, I guarantee it. I don't know how to, I mean, I'm posting this directly from TikTok. I have a 2-year-old son upstairs. You would have heard these doors open, surely. Nobody on this side. You can see my big butt standing on this side so no one can get out. I'm doing this pretty quickly because I don't want to be down here right now. Nothing in here. It's double doored. I'm telling you guys.
A creepy hand can be seen on the window to the bathroom, but just as he turns the corner seconds later, he finds...
You see this thing? This totally fake. There is no way the Lucifer will come in real self and sit on somebody's grave and start smoking. There's a fake video.
An Instagram account captured what appears to be Till Lindemann from Ramstein shape-shifting his eyes into a reptilian form. I first saw this in Contacto RV1. This is the video. So in this video, you can actually see him, you can see normal eyes, and then here you go, right? So I thought that this could be fake, I mean like not from the original video. So I went over to the original video in the concert in Paris 2017. Indeed, you can find this in 30 minutes and 22 seconds. Well, I'm gonna play the original video and you guys tell me what you think. Let's take a look at the original video. Right now. So pay attention, you got his eyes pretty normal, right? And then boom, what the heck? I'm gonna zoom in and replay the video. Pay very close attention. What is going on here, guys? Look at that. Oh my gosh. I want to know your thoughts. Is this the real deal or is it maybe fake CGI? You tell me.
This photorealistic horror game has some of the scariest jump scares I've seen in months. Let's talk about a claustrophobic nightmare. Welcome to Kowloon. Full game playthrough right here. This horror game takes place in Kowloon Walled City in China. Basically, you're a college student looking for cheap housing and you receive an offer from a landlady that lives there. As you work your way through the cramped corridors, you notice two things. One is that the visuals in this game are almost photorealistic, and the other is that there's no one here. There should be hundreds of people living in this complex alone. Where is everybody? Once you get to your room, things start to go wrong. And there is something really off about the landlady. The truth about what happened to the city has to do with gas leaking from the pipes in the apartment complex. And you find out about this when you discover a secret hideaway in the city itself. Now, I won't spoil the twist ending, but you should be warned. A couple of the jump scares in this game really are no joke. And it's definitely one of the scarier games I've played this year.
The dark web's strange creatures. Several dark web videos show strange and very scary creatures.
What are some of the creepiest items at museums? I'm gonna rank some, but they're gonna get worse as we go. So first up, we have this run-of-the-mill medieval plague doctor mask. This is probably from around the late 1600s and it's at a museum in Berlin. Next up, we have this horrifying collection of crab claws doing human things at the York Castle Museum. This was a Victorian era hobby, making little diagrams out of things that they just found around the house because it was so boring to be alive back then. This one made me feel a type of way. It's a sheep heart full of push pins, which was used to break curses. It's likely from the early 1900s and it's at the Pitt Rivers Museum in the UK. This one doesn't look bad, but it's the only cursed one on the list. This is a children's toy that was found in the wall of a 155-year-old mansion during renovations. It's at the PEI Museum and Heritage Foundation, and multiple workers have seen it move on its own. I mean, that checks out. Just look at it. And coming in first place is this nightmare fuel. This is at the Natural Science Museum in Scotland, and I don't even think they know what it is. They say it's taxidermied, but I don't know what thing has been taxidermied to make this. Anyways, for more spooks and scares, check out the podcast.
La leyenda de la lechuza.
Okay.
You see how they say that witches are lechuzas, owls, or whatever?
Yeah.
And it's kind of also a symbol of bad luck if you see an owl, especially in the daytime or whatever. And this was in a small town in Mexico, that there was this lady who they would call her la lechuza, but she was a witch. She would perform a lot of like rituals and shit until eventually they caught her, so they decided to kill her. Right before they're about to kill her, she sees an owl flying on top of her, and she basically curses them and says that she will come back in the form of an owl and kill everybody and get revenge. So the legend is that in the middle of the night she would come. If you see an owl, that it's la lechuza, and basically what she does is that she shapeshifts from an owl into a regular lady, a witch, and she kills you in the middle of the night.
I didn't know that it was bad luck if you see it in daytime.
I mean, there's different beliefs. A lot of people have different ways of seeing it, like everything else. There's some people who say that it's a sign of good luck. If you see it, that means that there's big changes coming in your life. It also means like wisdom and knowledge and stuff like that. But from what I've heard is that it's basically like death is around, like death is near.
You ever experienced seeing like an owl?
I seen an owl when I was...
Creepiest videos found on the internet. Strange creature in the attic. They hear these strange noises above the attic every single night. They then venture into the attic to see what it is. And what they found is absolutely horrifying. Look closely. What is that? Comment down below.
Okay guys, so this is interesting right here. The guy behind me is named Benjamin Bennett. He uploads 4-hour videos of him staring and smiling at the camera. In this specific video, a robber apparently broke in, saw the scene, and left. Personally, I would too. But let me play the clip for you guys right now. honestly, if I was a robber and I walked in and I saw some guy not even flinching and just staring and smiling, I would walk out too. But the fact that Benjamin doesn't flinch at all is also kind of sus. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below and comment for who you want to see next.
She done something horrifying. After years of being in the shadows of her older sister Melody, who was universally adored by family and peers alike, Amanda had enough. She was determined to demonstrate that although Melody excelled at everything, there was still something that she could do better than her. With this thought in mind, she decided to create a painting of her sister's corpse as a reference to showcase her talent for art. Collecting just the right materials took months, but when the masterpiece was finished, those who witnessed it unveiled felt a mix of horror and confusion. Then her mom asked, where did she get the reference? And Amanda answered, Melody's corpse.
This is what would happen if money suddenly disappeared. Up first, everybody would start to notice all the money in their checkings and savings accounts suddenly disappeared. This would then cause every single person to wonder where their money went, which would lead to complete confusion and worry. Next up, the stock market would then crash, which would then result in the entire world panicking. People would lose millions, even billions on investments in seconds. And not long after that, mostly every single human would start to lose their minds. They would start breaking things and screaming, which might result in heart attacks for some people, and even worse, people might take their own life. Next up, every single person will then stop showing up to work because they're not getting paid for it. Even police officers, which would result in an unimaginable amount of crime. Riots would start and everything would begin to get looted. The whole system will then completely crumble, and even the government will collapse. I know some people have said the world would be better if money disappeared, but after watching this video and you thought that, do you still want money disappearing? Because realistically, it wouldn't be good for anybody if money disappeared.
Caribbean dancing lady. So what is the story behind the Caribbean dancing lady? According to the people, this lady once fell in love with a man from different village, but her family never approved her love, so she killed herself. And her spirit still haunts the rural area of Arabia. And according to the people, she has been spotted many times dancing and singing sad songs at night. And if you found her dancing on the road or a street, and if you go close to her, she will stop dancing and chase you and kill you until you don't die. So don't.
Haunted places in Japan. Takaka no Numa, Greenland. Takaka no Numa, Greenland is an amusement park opened in 1973. When this park was undergoing construction, a story was told amongst locals that the park was cursed. When it was opened, people started dying in freak accidents. Soon, it was shut down due to the concerns over the safety of the rides. The park was opened again after 10 years, but the repetition of the park had made the attendance of the visitors very low. So it was closed once again, and this time for good. What's strange is the location of this park is a mystery. It was not demolished and it was just left to rust and fade out of the public consciousness.
This is the disturbing truth about Danny Phantom. Okay, so we all know who Danny Phantom is and Timmy Turner. But have you ever wondered why they look exactly the same? Well, that's because the show Danny Phantom is actually Timmy Turner's life as a teenager. After Timmy made his last wish to make him and all of his friends superheroes, Timmy grew up to be Danny Phantom, Chester grew up to be Dash, Trixie grew up to be Paulina, Tootie grew up to be Sam, and AJ grew up to be Tucker. And all of these characters kinda look exactly the same, just in different grown-up versions. And the crazy thing is, you can actually see them grown up in Danny Phantom. Many people believe this to be true, and others don't believe it at all. Like, for example, the eye colors are completely different, and even the skin tone on some of the characters. But what do you think about this? Do you think Danny Phantom is just Timmy Turner grown up? And if so, let me know in the comments. Everybody loved these two shows, and just imagine if they were actually connected. In my opinion, this theory is absolutely mind-blowing, and
This video from the dark web is actually the worst. It shows a compilation of all the Serbian lady's videos. At the moment, there's a lack of information, which is a cause for concern. Many hypotheses are circulating about her, but one detail at the end calls this idea into question.
creepy things you never knew existed. Okay, so every single one of us would love to go and visit Japan. But if you do, whatever you do, never stay at these hotels in Japan. There are these hotels in Japan that cost only $1 a night to stay in. But there's a disturbing twist. These hotels livestream every single one of your movements to complete random people and strangers. So every single second you're spending in these rooms, you will be live streamed to thousands of people, just watching your every movement for no reason at all. They can watch you eat, sleep, bite your nails, or just anything else that you do. But the scariest part about this whole thing is that your identity, your face, and your location is now known by thousands of random strangers. So unless you're a person that likes going to random countries and having your location and identity known by every single person, this might be the place for you to stay. But let's be honest, I don't think anybody wants that. But I know there's some people with a budget that will just get over all of that and pay the dollar. But in my opinion, this is just weird and just kind of disturbing.
This man tortured people in unspeakable ways, all because of a dark secret. Let's talk about Alexander of Brennenburg from Amnesia, The Dark Descent. Disturbing content ahead. Alexander is the Baron of the castle that the game takes place in. However, he's much more than just a nobleman. Alexander is actually an otherworldly being that is centuries old. He was banished from the otherworld to Earth, and he's been trying to find a way home for hundreds of years. That's where the torture comes in. This is Vitae, and it's what Alexander hoped to use to return home. Humans secrete Vitae into their bloodstream during extreme amounts of pain, suffering, and fear. So for hundreds of years, Alexander would bring people to his castle, torture them, and extract their vitae. However, it didn't stop there, as remember, the name of the game is Amnesia. Eventually, after enough time, humans get used to things like pain and fear. So in order to keep torturing people and extracting vitae, he would give them an amnesia serum. That way they could experience all of that pain and fear again for the first time.
The dark web's scariest video. A dark corner where identities are concealed behind encrypted veils and sordid activities take place in silence. Among the whispers of clandestine forums and anonymous transactions, this type of video can sometimes be found. It's really scary, but the end will surprise you.
Have you ever heard of midnight ice cream trucks? This is part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1, go watch that and then come back. I was too shaken up to sleep, so I opened up my laptop and found the discussion thread on the MICTs that Joel had shown me. I scrolled through, looking for anything useful. There were varying theories on the origins and intent of the MICTs. Most agreed that a large part of their purpose was spreading the song itself. Some thought they were part of a government mind control experiment. Others believed that they were camouflaged alien vehicles using the song to condition our brains for unknown nefarious purposes. One user theorized that they were unmanned vehicles created as part of some experimental marketing strategy. The MICTs may have never been properly shut down when the operation ended and would roam aimlessly throughout the country forever. The most outlandish theory stated that they were sent from the future, using the song to inject messages and warnings into our dreams. I grew exasperated from all the reading. It was all too ridiculous to be taken seriously. Whether the reports were sincere or not, these explanations were absurd and unfounded. In a last-ditch effort at some worthwhile information, I found the user who'd uploaded the audio file and clicked on his profile, ADI Sloan 93. It was the same person who'd posted the graph of disappearances. I hastily created an account and sent a private message. Me. Hey there, had some questions about the MICT stuff. I'd love a chance to chat, hit me up if you got some time or even just any advice for dealing with them. Thanks. I called Joel that next morning. He acted so normal and nonchalant that I soon dismissed the idea of a prank. When I reluctantly told him of the incident, he sounded almost exuberant. No effing way, for real? That's crazy, dude. I told you it was real. I asked if the jingle had ever been stuck in his head. He said it had for a while, but after playing it for me and hearing it a second time, he'd gradually stopped thinking about it. That actually made a lot of sense. Sometimes annoying pop-up songs that get lodged in your brain could be shaken loose by giving them a second listen. I thanked Joel for the talk, and he told me to be careful. His voice sounded cheerful. He lived for this stuff and probably even wanted it to be real. I'd begun to regret having ever humored his bizarre passion. Back on my laptop, I found the audio link. I mentally prepared myself, but hearing the sound still startled me. The melody seemed more jarring and unsettling than I remembered. As it looped over and over, I strained to hear the faint noises in the background. They seemed more pronounced when I focused on them. There was a wet, squishy noise, and if I listened very carefully, something that resembled a low, creaking voice. The longer I listened, the more it seemed I could almost tell what it was saying. I lurched backwards in my chair as a pop-up blinked onto my screen. Effing ads. I left to get groceries and saw my neighbor in her driveway. I asked if she'd heard anything odd the night before. She said no, and how come? I said it'd probably been raccoons in the trash. I was not about to explain this absurdity to her. I got my groceries and stopped at Taco Bell for lunch. As I ate, it dawned on me that the jingle was no longer stuck in my head. Thank God. On my phone, I checked the personal message I'd sent yesterday. ADI Sloan 93 had responded. ADI Sloan 93. Hey there, glad you got in touch. I can chat tomorrow anytime after 11 a.m. Eastern. If you've seen anything MICT related, then please avoid the topic entirely for now. Get off this site, don't listen or read or talk about anything, just chill for a bit. Trust me on this, I'll fill you in later. I decided he probably wouldn't be much help. His warning sounded more like unhinged paranoia. Really? I just wanted to forget the song and be done with it. When I returned home, something was off about the house. The air inside felt warm and slightly moist. There was a faint scent of something sickly sweet, like rotting vegetation. I checked the oven and burners, as well as the faucets in the kitchen and the bathroom. Everything was turned off. I checked the garbage, but it was nearly empty. I told myself this was just spring weather, but an anxious knot had begun to form in my stomach. I opened the windows to air the place out. Up until now, I'd been using my own skepticism to comfort myself. Regardless of what I thought I'd heard, I hadn't witnessed anything irrefutably real about the MICT. This changed when I finally saw one. I awoke with a start, disoriented. I'd been having a nightmare, though I couldn't recall what about. As my mind cleared, I became aware that the jingle could be distantly heard. I jumped out of bed and peered out my window. Like the night prior, the source of the sound was still many blocks away, but this time I could hear it getting closer. I dreaded the possibility of actually encountering one of the rumored MICTs. Whatever was making the sound, I silently willed it to pass by unseen as it had before. What happened instead was that a dark shape emerged from around the corner and slowly rolled into the glow of the street lamp. It was white with a classic horn-shaped speaker on top. The side was plastered with faded pictures of popsicles and Dixie cups. There was something very abnormal about the shape. Unusual angles and corners. It had an almost old-fashioned aesthetic, like something out of the 1920s. As it neared the house, I remembered that I was standing directly in front of an open window. I felt a moment of panic and ducked out of sight. Keeping my head low, I reached up to close the window. I crouched there as the jingling tune grew louder. I could hear the wetness and low voices again. It seemed these sounds had not just been on the recording, but were a part of the jingle itself. I clenched my teeth and waited for the music to pass by. Instead, the sound abruptly stopped. Had the truck turned off its speaker and continued driving? I strained to hear an engine and could detect nothing. There was silence. The truck must still be out there, directly in front of my house. I considered what this meant. Had it stopped because it had seen me? Or had my house been its destination? Trying to stay calm, I considered what to do next. I could sneak out the back door without passing any windows, and exit the yard through the back gate. I could go outside and confront whoever it was, perhaps finding a makeshift weapon first. I could retrieve my phone from the charger in the kitchen and call the police. All of these options, I realized, required going downstairs. Quietly and slowly, I left my room and moved down the stairway. This put me inside of the entry windows, and I risked a glance. The truck was parked right out front, as I'd thought. I reached the bottom of the stairs, keeping low. From my vantage point, I should be able to look straight into the driver's side window. I could gather a description to give to the police. I inched my head forward until the truck was just barely within my view. My heart jumped as I saw the driver. They were sitting completely still, facing forward with their hands on the steering wheel. I squinted, trying to make out their facial features in the dim light. Their head appeared slightly elongated, like a ball of putty that had been stretched out. A small reflection of light across their nose and forehead suggested that their skin was an abnormal texture, smooth and glossy. Was the driver wearing a mask? They sat so still, I was almost convinced it was some sort of mannequin. I decided it didn't matter. I wanted my phone. I inched myself along the front wall, ducking under the windows as I passed. I cursed my own stupidity for leaving them all wide open. Holding my breath, I strained to stay alert for any noise from outside. There was a knock on the door. I froze. It was so surprising. I almost thought I'd imagined it. Then, it came again. Something about how normal it sounded terrified me. That knock was far too casual and polite for the circumstances. Come back for part 3.
This next video was submitted to me by a father who caught something pretty creepy on camera. Now, the initial purpose of the video was to document a strange occurrence that often happens around 4 p.m. According to the father, it is at this time when the baby monitor inside his bedroom picks up a strange noise. It's hard to make out the sound that is being made, but whatever the source might be, it definitely sounds creepy. For this reason, the father thought it'd be best to record and share this video. However, little did he know that something far more spooky would be caught on camera. The father records the sound when suddenly something else is captured. This is what he caught.
Alright, check this out. There's this noise coming from the bedroom. My wife and my baby, they're not here. They're not in the bedroom. This noise happens every day at this exact time. Man, yet there's no one in there. No one.
All of a sudden, the closet door opens on its own. It opens wide enough, showing no one inside. Understandably, the father stands up in total shock, as he just caught something that may just prove his belief. According to him, the strange noises have nothing to do with frequency interference, but more to do with something paranormal. He believes that whatever opened the door was responsible for the sounds that were picked up by the monitor. Whether ghost or not, the father is definitely creeped out by this. He further adds that he'll continue to document more of these strange occurrences, but until then, this video stands to be the creepiest encounter he's had. But as always, what are your thoughts on this? Could this be evidence of something paranormal? Or did something else occur?
If you come across this little boy, run as far away as possible, seriously. I'll show you his picture, and it sends shivers down the spine, believe me. Know that those who haven't shared, liked, and commented on his favorite animal in the comments of this video might encounter him. I've warned you. Stay still. I'm going to show you what he looks like. But before that, let me tell you who he is and why he is so feared. He's called Persic. This demonic little boy, about a year old, is well known for his ability to slip into the cracks in your house, causing disasters such as collapses, fires, and other bizarre accidents. I'm sure you've seen such cracks in your place. It's typically the work of Persic. He's not the type to tell you what to do, but all that isn't the scariest part. If you ever meet him, he'll challenge you to a game of hide and seek. At that point, things get dicey for you. There are 2 possible outcomes to this game. Listen closely. If he doesn't find you, he'll take out his anger on your house and everyone in it. But if he does find you, then he'll take you with him, and no one knows where. I'll show you what he looks like. You'll see in his eyes that you should do everything to avoid him.
If you hear someone knocking but nobody's there, whatever you do, don't open the door. Here's why. From anonymous sources, a man who lives with his dog alone in an apartment complex started hearing footsteps outside his apartment, followed by knocking. But every time he looked through the door, no one was there. One night, as whoever's been knocking on the door comes to visit him, he decides to investigate, and this happens. Doesn't seem to notice, but as him and his dog are startled by a loud noise at the end of the hall, through the camera, a pair of pale legs can be seen walking down the hallway.
And we know you've been disrespecting your mother. What did he say? Thomas, if you don't stop misbehaving, we're gonna take your mom away and leave you here alone.
Have you ever heard of the midnight ice cream trucks? A few months ago, I moved to a small college town with the plan to finish my associates at a community college before transferring into university. I found a room on Craigslist in a house shared with one other occupant. My new roommate Joel was a reclusive stoner type. As I got to know him, I learned that he was an enthusiastic believer in conspiracy theories and supernatural occurrences. We'd often share a joint while he told me about hauntings, black holes passing through the earth, chemtrails, and that sort of stuff. I'd listen and humor him, but considered it to be mostly nonsense. One day, he showed me an online discussion where several people had reported a similar experience. They recalled nights when an ice cream truck had driven through their neighborhood playing a strange jingle. It would come on very late when the streets were empty, and those who spotted the truck from their windows recalled feeling very afraid. And the eerie song was said to have caused recurring nightmares. The community had dubbed them Midnight Ice Cream Trucks, abbreviated as MICTs. The reports came from several locations in the US. And one user had made a graph which linked the sightings to areas with unusually high numbers of missing persons. I responded with my usual skepticism, but Joel insisted on showing me one more thing, a link to a sound file. It was supposedly the jingle that MICTs would play when they drove about. The tune was strange and chaotic, with a churning rhythm and frantic melody that didn't seem to make any musical sense. It also seemed that there were other sounds behind the notes that couldn't quite be deciphered. I'll admit it gave me a slightly uneasy feeling, which also made me feel stupid for getting sucked in. I told Joel that like other such reports, these were extraordinary claims with very little evidence. The following day, I found the jingle from the recording had gotten stuck in my head. Despite only having heard it for a few seconds, it would come into my mind frequently during periods of silence. I wondered if the strange tune had been deliberately engineered to have this type of earworm effect. Perhaps it had been produced as an advanced hoax or viral marketing campaign. If so, it was very effective. I soon began to experience instances where I actually heard the jingle. The first time it happened, I was in the car listening to the radio. Without warning, the discordant tune came on. My heart skipped a beat before I realized I was just hearing the intro to Wouldn't It Be Nice by the Beach Boys, which has a charming music box style to it. I felt very stupid, but also conflicted. I could have sworn I'd heard the jingle briefly, but it was much more plausible than I'd imagined it. At least it seemed that way until the same thing occurred 3 more times. I heard the jingle when turning on the TV, in the background at a 7-Eleven, and from the stereo of a passing car. Thing is, it never lasted long enough to be certain I'd truly heard it. After 2 days of this, I was feeling legitimately bothered and wanted an explanation. Could the tune have been part of a radio single, and I'd only recognized the one segment? Something from a movie soundtrack or commercial? It seemed doubtful. The song was unharmonious and barely even resembled music. The possibility that I was hallucinating was a real concern. Was I suffering a decline in mental health? I'd have considered school stress a factor, but spring break had just started, so this was also unlikely. I couldn't think of any root cause beyond the sound clip itself. Skeptical as I was of the MICT story, the audio recording seemed to have messed with my head. I began keeping my earbuds in during times of quiet, using music to keep the jingle out of my thoughts. This was, frankly, embarrassing. I hoped to shake this condition without having to explain it to anyone else. That night, I heard the song outside my house around 2 in the morning. Joel had left town to visit his parents, and I had the place to myself for 5 days. It was hot, so I'd kept the bedroom window open. I was watching Netflix and starting to doze off when the jingle came drifting in through the window. My eyes shot open. I waited for the tune to resolve into something else, as it had before, but it persisted. In disbelief, I muted my laptop and walked to the window. The streets were dark and empty. The music echoed up from what seemed like a few blocks away. I watched the streets intently, waiting to see if the source of the jingle would come into view. The music gradually grew distant until it could no longer be heard. I stood there for a long time afterward in a nervous daze. What the hell was happening? Was there any possibility it had been some other sound, which my paranoid imagination had perceived as the jingle? Could Joel have staged this as some elaborate prank? He seemed too lazy and too serious about his theories to have put so much effort into a practical joke. Even so, I decided I'd call him the next day. Come back for part 2.
Top 3 creepy last words people said right before dying. A nurse who wants to remain anonymous said that she had a sweet patient named Ella who started to lose herself to dementia. She started talking to herself. Most of the time it was playful. She would laugh to herself. One day, the nurse walked into her room and she was in a complete panic. She had her blanket pulled up to her chin and she was completely pale. The nurse went to her bedside to ask her what was wrong, and she said, "There is a woman in black looking in my window, and I am just petrified of her smile." The nurse said that it shook her hard. Reddit user Simple Simon 6262 said that when he was a student, he got called in on a stroke patient. She had coded and they were doing CPR. They worked for 45 minutes. But she died. They cleaned her up and called on her family to say goodbye. By the time her family left, she had been both brain dead and without a pulse for over 45 minutes. He said that blood had filled her brain and she was completely gray and had started to smell. Suddenly, she sat up and called for her family. The nurses rushed to get equipment and monitors back on her. She stabilized, said goodbye to her family, and promptly died a second time. Reddit user AJH1717 said that he works in a cardiovascular surgical ICU. He said that they had a stretch of nights where each corner room of their unit reported seeing a black cat walking around. Not a friendly cat either, apparently. The thing was hissing at them. The accounts were so similar to each other that they probably spent half an hour looking for the cat. Then they had security look as well. No cat was ever seen or found. 2 of those 4 patients coded the next day.
A band was performing at a haunted location when their song conjured a spirit. An old haunting video has been resurfacing the web of a band who's performing at the Mambo Jumbo Event Center in Coatzacoalcos, Mexico. When suddenly, amidst their performance, whatever entity haunts this building shows itself in front of them. What looks like the head of a woman emerges from the corner of a TV that seems too narrow for any human body to fit in. The band members seem to be unaware of this entity, which led many viewers to believe this could be a real, authentic footage of a ghost caught on camera.